today. Today I'm going to be cooking soya bean and peas curry, green peas. So soya bean, we used soya bean in a curry a couple of days back, and I mentioned that soya beans or soya meat or soya chunks, it's called various different things. It's used as a meat. Um, what is the proper word? Replacement. It's a vegetable textured protein that's used as a meat replacement, and it's really healthy. It's really nutritious. It has a lot of protein, and it can be used in various different ways. So we used it in a curry earlier, and now we are going to use it in a rice dish. I cooked chicken pulao. This recipe follows almost the same things, except it is geared towards being vegan, being vegetarian. There's no animal products used. And honestly, you can add in a lot of vegetables to this pulao. I add in soya meat and green peas. I keep it simple. I keep it restricted to those two ingredients. But you can add in cauliflower, you can add in broccoli, you can add in any kind of vegetable that you like eating uh, with rice, or you want to experiment in a pulao. You can add in any vegetable, honestly. But if you're like me, you like to keep it simple. Soya and green peas is all you need. So let me introduce you to the ingredients of today's cooking. That's the soya chunks or soya meat. You'll have to cook them first, and when we made curry, I mentioned how you cook them. It's really easy to cook the soya chunks. You bring some water to a boil and you soak the soya chunks in hot boiling water for 2 minutes. Then you rinse the soya chunks and soak them in room temperature water for another 5 minutes. Then you slowly drain all the water from soya chunks by gently squeezing them, and then you place all the soya chunks in a dry bowl. So I have finished the whole process of boiling and draining the soya chunks, soya meat, soya bean. I didn't want to repeat the same thing again since I've already explained this to you, so let's go ahead. The other ingredient that you'd be requiring is green peas. I used frozen green peas, so it's just kept in water to keep them fresh. And the regular tomato, onion, green chilies, coriander. We have some finely chopped garlic, our whole spices, ginger garlic paste, salt, and our powdered spices. Don't worry, I'm going to talk you through every ingredient while we add it to our dish. And also, exclamation mark recipe in the chat will get you the written recipe for this dish. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, just check in the comments and you should get a link to a file with all the written recipes on it. So we are using our pressure cooker, our trusty pressure cooker. We keep it on heat, let the cooker heat up before moving on to the next step. Before you begin cooking, you also need to take 2 cups of basmati rice, or approximately my cups are a bit larger, so I end up taking 450 grams of basmati rice. You'll take them, you'll soak them in water, just any amount of water. Just soak them for approximately, just when you start cooking, is if you soak them, they soak for 20-25 minutes till when you need them. So that would be great. Having it soaked for 25 to 30 minutes. Once your cooker is hot, you'll be adding in your oil. I add in 4 tablespoons of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, but you can use any oil of your choice. And we'll let the oil heat up. It'll start smoking, the oil starts crackling. Once it starts smoking and crackling, that's when you add in your whole spices. For the whole spices, you will need 2 teaspoons of cumin, or basically 1 tablespoon of cumin, 4 whole clove, 4 whole green cardamom. Then you'll be requiring a whole stick of cinnamon and 2 bay leaves. Green chilies, these are slit green chilies, around 5 to 6 slit green chilies. Just slit them straight in the center, have them in cut into two halves. They go in with your whole spices as well, and you can listen to that crackling once you add the spices and your green chilies. Here I have some minced garlic or finely chopped garlic. These are about 15 cloves of finely chopped garlic. They go in as well after your green chilies. And then you start sauteing them and listen to them crackle. You'll saute them for a couple of minutes until you can hear, like you can smell. You of course can't hear the spices, but you can smell them. You'll hear them crackling all along, but you'll be smelling the aroma. You'll be smelling the garlic. You'll see the garlic turn slight golden brown and lose its white. So a couple of minutes sauteing the spices and the green chilies and your garlic. It's going to be really flavorful. At this point, the oil that is in the cooker has basically been flavored with all these ingredients, and that oil is going to help. It's going to seep into your tomatoes, the onions, everything, and going to flavor your entire dish. Once the spices are done, you see the chilies have wrinkled and started getting a coat of a golden coat, and the garlic isn't white anymore. That's when you know all the spices, your whole spices are done. We'll add in our onions. Hello, Petit, welcome. I hope you're ready to get hungry. After you add in your onions, sliced onions, you'll require close to 3 large red onions sliced. Add them in, just twirl around and break them apart so that they're not stuck together. Add in your salt to taste, but add in your salt immediately after your onions so that you help the onions brown. Once you add in the amount of salt and seasoning that as per your taste, you start sauteing your onions and you start browning them. This takes approximately 6 to 7 minutes on high heat. If you keep stirring it, they won't get stuck to the bottom of your cooker, they won't burn. So just keep stirring it, keep an eye on your onions and turn them into really dark brown onions. You just had lunch, so no? Hey, I'm still gonna try to make you hungry, alright? What did you eat today, Petit? We're cooking a completely vegetarian dish and even a vegan dish actually. So if you ate meat, you're going to be seeing some veggie goodness in here. A lot of people always ask, when do you know when the onions are browned, right? So you know when the onions are browned, like you can see some of the onions are still bright pink. First they turn translucent, then they turn light brown, and then they start turning dark brown. And when they turn dark brown is when you know that they are done. Some dishes require you to brown them completely to a fried state. Some dishes you just need to keep it translucent. It depends on dish to dish. So always make sure at what stage do you need to stop cooking your onions. In a lot of curries or in a lot of rice dishes, we just brown the onions until they get a little bit of the brown color and are translucent, and then we grind them. So you need to always make sure what your recipe requires, to what extent you need to brown your onions. Some pasta with salmon and vegetables was cold dish. Ah, I see. Okay, salmon and vegetables sounds fantastic. Let's listen to our onions. Ooh. When the onions hit the pan, the cooker, they start sizzling, and that noise is really I would call it a sexy noise, honestly. The sizzling of onions, the sizzling of the spices, the crackling of all of them. It's like when you're cooking, you enjoy the sounds of food. So people who eat a dish, they're enjoying the smell and the taste. But when you cook, you're also enjoying the sound. You can see that my onions have browned quite well. It has also started caramelizing and leaving some bits of caramelization on the bottom of our cooker, but we won't worry about that. At this stage, I'm pretty much happy with my onions. I still see a few bright pink onions out there, but that's okay. It must be like a strand or two of onions in the bigger picture. That's totally fine. But I'm still going to stir them around a bit. Make sure that all of them are browned to my requirement. Because in a rice dish, when you're cooking a rice dish, you want your onions to be brown so that if someone takes a bite, they taste the sweet, tender onion. You don't want it to be raw. You don't want it to not be brown and be pink. Otherwise, they're not going to get the sweet flavor of the onion. They're going to taste the raw onion, which would be a bad flavor in a cooked dish, especially in a cooked rice dish. Once the onions are done, once the onions are brown, like you can see here, the bright pink bits have reduced to just a single strand or two, and the entire onion seem brown enough for me. Look at that golden brown onions. They're nice. Now this is the level of browning required for this specific dish. For the chicken curry, we'll be cooking to day after tomorrow, or tomorrow rather. For the chicken curry that we'll be cooking tomorrow, we're going to be browning the onions even further. But right now, this is the level of browning that we are satisfied with. Once our onions are browned, we're going to go ahead with the next step of this dish. That would be adding in our ginger garlic paste. You would require 1 tablespoon of ginger garlic paste. And once again, why do you add ginger garlic paste after your onions are browned? It's because garlic is sticky. So the garlic makes all your onions sticky. And once you add in your garlic, the ginger garlic paste, it's not going to let the onions be separate. It's going to bunch them together. And yeah, that's why you need to brown the onions before adding in the ginger garlic paste. Sadly, I was an idiot. Don't be like me. Follow your recipe. I forgot to add the ginger garlic paste at this point, and I added in the tomatoes. And once I realized later, I added in the tomatoes with my ginger. I added my ginger garlic paste with my tomatoes. So, I did a small little oopsie. Don't do that oopsie. Don't be like me. Add in your ginger garlic paste. Saute them. Make sure they're nicely cooked. After which you're going to add in your tomatoes. So you'll require around 3 large tomatoes which are slit. Then you'll require powdered spices which are red chili powder, around 3 teaspoons, turmeric, around half a teaspoon, coriander powder, around 1.5 teaspoon, garam masala powder, around 1.5 teaspoon, and chicken masala powder, around 1.5 teaspoon. So all these powdered spices go in, and you start cooking your tomatoes. You start cooking your tomatoes. You start cooking your whole powdered spices. And if you're like me who forgot to add in your ginger garlic paste, once the tomatoes are half cooked, you can add in your ginger garlic paste. But technically, you should always cook your ginger garlic paste before adding in your tomatoes. The tomatoes take 8 minutes to cook. You need to make sure that the tomatoes are cooked nicely. You don't want them to be raw. You don't want them to be. You don't want them to give too much of a bitter. They add quite a lot of acidity to your food. They add the sourness to your food. So if they're raw, they'll be adding extra sourness. So you need to make sure that they're cooked, especially once again in a rice dish. In a curry, you can get away with it being a bit sour, but not in a rice dish. So make sure that they're cooked, and it takes approximately 8 minutes, and you notice that the oil starts separating towards the side. However, you can still see some bright red tomatoes on there. So what you need to make sure that they lose all their bright reddish colors. So I'm going to continue to cook the tomatoes some more, and I think at this stage we're going to add in our ginger garlic paste. When the tomatoes are completely cooked, you see there's no bright red tomatoes remaining anymore. I'm going to add in our ginger garlic paste because I forgot. All right, you need to add them before the tomatoes, but in case you forget, you can always save yourself and do this. Add in your ginger garlic paste, saute and cook it for 2 minutes. It takes a couple of minutes for the ginger garlic paste to cook thoroughly, and it loses its raw fragrance. So just keep sauteing it around, keep mixing it, make sure it's properly cooked before we move on to the next stage of this dish. Hey Slit, welcome. How are you doing, Slit? Are you ready to get hungry? You can see that the tomatoes, even the tomatoes, after you add in the ginger garlic paste, they start sticking to each other. That's why you want the ginger garlic paste to go in and be cooked before you add the tomatoes. But, I messed up and we made the best out of it. My tomatoes and the ginger garlic paste are now cooked, and I'm going to add in our soya chunks. We have taken around 150 grams of soya chunks and 100 grams of green peas. Both of these go in, and you'll start mixing so that the soya chunks and the green peas get mixed with the tomato and onion base that you just cooked. Doing great. I'm actually eating now. Oh, perfect. Perfect. So you won't get as hungry as someone else would. What are you eating, Slit? This is perfect. People tuning into a cooking stream after having eaten or while eating. That's probably the best time to watch food. So make sure your your soya chunks and your green peas are mixed with the onion and tomato base. Once they are mixed properly, we're going to add in our rice, basmati rice. We have taken 2 cups, which is around 450 grams. It's been soaked in water for half an hour. In goes the rice. And you start stirring. You mix your rice, your soya, your green peas, and your onion and tomato base. At this stage, your rice is not going to be broken easily. Once it's cooked, and if you mix it too much, it's going to break up. But at this stage, it's not going to break easily, and that is when you take advantage of the fact that it's not going to break easily, and you mix it up with everything. I don't know what it's called, but it's basically baked chicken breasts with cheese and tomato sauce on top. I think I know what it is. I don't know what it's called either, but I think I know what it is. Once you have mixed your rice, soya, peas, and the base, we're going to add in some water. Now we are going to add in approximately a liter of water. So the logic with water is you need to take, if you take 1 cup of rice, you take 1.5 cups of water. If you take 2 cups of rice, you take 4 cups of water. If you take it's just half a cup extra compared to your rice. You also have to keep in mind the ingredients that are going in. So for example, soya and peas are vegetable. They're not going to hydrate any of their own liquids, any of their own juices. So you need to keep that into account and add in half a cup of extra water. But if you have chicken, which is going to produce its own moisture, which is going to add some more liquid into the dish, you reduce the quantity of water that you put by half a cup. So for this dish, I have taken in 2 cups of rice, so I'm putting in 4 cups of water. For the chicken pulao, I had taken 2 cups of rice, but I had only put in three and 1/4 glass of water, cup of water, because chicken would hydrate and add its own moisture to the dish. Once you add in your water, you're going to mix it well, mix all the contents well, and you're going to start boiling the water. And you also want to check for salt, check for seasoning. Sauce. Okay, tomato sauce makes sense. I was trying to figure out what that word was, Slit. I thought it's like a fancy topping. Mix it well, let the water start boiling, and then you're going to check for seasoning. Once you add the water is going to take away the salt from your onions, from your tomatoes, and you want to make sure that it's seasoned well so that the rice takes in the flavor as well. So grab a spoon, grab a bit of the water, and taste for salt. Whoa! Cam, thank you so much for your 11-month
Kasuna Panda,
subscription.
hey.
Hey, Cam. Your 11-month streak, Cam. You're going to get the new sub badge soon once I make it, of course. And then you're going to get the new 12-month sub badge too. So the 9-month and 12-month sub badge. You'll be getting 2 sub badges back to back. Thank you so much for the sub, Cam. Hope you're having a great day. We are cooking some vegetable pulao with soya bean and peas. Once the water has come to a boil, once you're happy with the seasoning, you're going to close the pressure cooker lid. Make sure that it's nice and tight. Make sure nothing is blocking the whistle. Seal it up. You don't want any steam escaping from this bad boy. And you're going to wait for approximately 2 whistles or 3. You could let it be for 3 whistles, but in 2 whistles your rice and your base, everything is going to be cooked, everything is going to be ready. So look, let's listen to our whistle. We let the chicken pulao cook for 4 whistles because the chicken takes longer to cook, but the vegetable ingredients that we have inside here are going to cook fast. So you cook them for 2 whistles until the pressure cooker whistles twice. Then you turn off the heat on your stove and let the pressure cooker rest in its own heat until all the steam naturally just comes out of the pressure cooker. And then you slowly and carefully open it up. So you let it rest for 10 minutes before opening it. And look at that. Once you open, the steam just straight up hits you. Be careful of that steam. It can cause a lot of burns, so be careful. That's our vegetable pulao. You're going to have to mix now, but before mixing, you're going to put in finely chopped coriander. In India, we get coriander, mint, and a lot of leafy vegetables and stuff in bunches. You don't get them in grams, you just get 1 bunch, 2 bunch, 3 bunch. So I calculate it in bunches, but it approximately comes up to being like 30-40 grams. So this is 1 bunch of finely chopped coriander that goes in to your cooked dish. Spread it out evenly and mix your entire dish. Use both your hands to do the mixing. It's not easy mixing with one hand, trust me. You want to hold your, look, it starts sliding away from me. You want to hold your cooker with one hand and mix with the other so that it doesn't run away from you. I think my mom does something similar with coriander. Yeah, coriander is always something that you add as a topping, as a garnish. It doesn't need to be cooked together, and it gives a really nice flavor. It gives a fresh flavor to your dish. Apart from flavor, it also gives a nice little color. It's the green variation to an otherwise pretty yellowish or brownish dish. So once you mix it, look at that. Look, you can see the green peas, you can see the coriander, you can see the soya meat. You can see the rice, and it's now ready to serve your vegan or vegetarian pulao. No animal products used in the making of this pulao, and it's just as tasty, just as flavorful, just as amazing as the chicken pulao. I'm lying. Nothing can beat chicken. But it comes close, it comes close.